everybody, crafting journey here. What a day yesterday. Oh my god. Um I was exhausted. It just like my mind was blown. Like not that and I'm talking about the verdict. Everybody was talking about the verdict. Um Here's what blew my mind is that I had so many subscribers tune in to watch the verdict with me, which awesome guys, awesome. I'm glad you felt like a safe place to express your opinions and to watch the verdict. And yeah, thanks for stopping by. Um, I guess I was also a little stunned by the magnitude of the verdict. I knew that everyone was waiting for it, but the world was waiting for it. The world. Uh, yeah. And everything remained peaceful after the verdict. Even the people that didn't believe he should have been found guilty were free to express that opinion, but did so calmly, rationally, to my knowledge. Now, I'm not going to say that I've monitored all of the news, and there might be something going on out there that I'm not aware of. But, to my perception, because I did have a few people comment, they were in the minority, that they felt Derek Chauvin should not have been found guilty. And I allowed them to express that because I felt that's important. This is a country where we all have different opinions. And as I've said all along, my biggest issue with the whole scenario, if you will, is that someone who is trained to deliver emergency medical care chooses not to, for whatever reason, because the reasons never made sense to me. Now, I don't know if the outcome would have been different had this man taken the stand and explained to me, here's why I didn't do it. Maybe there was, maybe it just defied logic. Maybe he had no explanation for it. Anyway, he will be entering the land of appeals, the appellate land, where all the other, with all the other criminals, it is murky at best, and yeah, his life will be changed forever. The Floyd family will be changed forever. And you know what I found interesting? I was searching this morning for, as I do every morning, I sit and I get my coffee and I do some research about what day, what national day it is, which one I want to do, and what day in history this is, and which one I want to do for that. And one of the ones I ultimately we're not going to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it right second, right now and because of his connection to Minneapolis, is Prince. This is the day in history that Prince passed away. He was born in Minneapolis. This is just this weird coincidence. He was born in Minneapolis. He died in this park in Minneapolis from a fentanyl overdose. What? Like, what is going on in Minneapolis with the fentanyl? Get the fentanyl out of Minneapolis. Anyway, so I'm not going to cover that story. I just thought it was interesting. I'm like, whoa, maybe, I don't know if that's appropriate for this day in history. I chose something else. Another one I passed up on is today is the birthday of Queen Elizabeth. Happy 95th birthday, Queen Elizabeth. Kudos to you, gal. But I do have one suggestion, Elizabeth. Perhaps you could change the pattern of your wardrobe. To me, she's always wears the same pattern. It's different material, different colors, but it's always that overcoat and the same hat. To me, I think it's the same hat. I don't know. But yeah, her suits always look the same to me. Exact same pattern, just different material. I don't know. Change your wardrobe, person, because it's time. You're 95, gal. Come on. So, all right. I worked on this corner up here. No idea what it is. I thought maybe this was a bird. I don't know. I have no idea. This is this is one strange painting. I think when it's done, I'm gonna go, oh, whoa, this is cool. But I don't know. Where should I go next? Maybe right here. Maybe right here. These two. I'll finish this up today. This is also Craft With Me Wednesday. For those of you who have just joined the channel, welcome. Thank you for subscribing. If you're considering subscribing, please do so. I do a morning show every day, but on Wednesdays, I do Craft With Me Wednesday. And once a month, I venture into the world of quilting, and that once a month is today. So I'm going to do a little collage quilting. I've started this high heel, if you will. It's a gigantic pink high heel, and I'm going to work on that a little bit tonight. It's at 6 p.m. Central. So I don't have a lot of time to diamond paint, so I'm going to try to finish this section up, clear my work area so I can get out all of the collage stuff. But yeah, so we're going to finish this little section. And then tomorrow maybe I'll open up that other section there. Oh my goodness. What national day did I choose? I chose, drum roll please. Do, 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 do. I know that's not a drum roll. What is that? It's just a little sound that I make every now and then. It just comes out spontaneously. National Chocolate Covered Cashew Day. Like, did you know that we needed an entire day to celebrate this nut? First of all, this is one expensive nut. Yes, cashew nuts are cost prohibitive. I love cashews, dark chocolate covered cashews, and I know where I can buy them, but they're so expensive. Just to get some cashews to munch on, like there's one company that you can get a small can of these coconut flavored, like a tropical flavor cashew, delicious, full of calories, but cashews are expensive. So if I'm going to go with a dark chocolate cashew, yeah, I want, or a chocolate covered cashew. Yeah, I want dark chocolate. Yes. So like if I'm putting together a bridge mix, I'm going to want some dark chocolate covered cashews in my bridge mix. Now, would I eat them alone? Of course I'll eat them alone, but I do enjoy them in a bridge mix with some other, like malted milk balls in my bridge mix. And what do you like in your bridge mix? Because I have this candy store, a local candy store here in town in Wichita, that makes different mixes. One they call the millennial, I don't know, mix. And they'll put like chocolate covered dried cherries in it. Oh my God, it's so good. It's so good, and it's very popular. And every now and then I'll venture over, I'll venture over to a candy store and I'll pick up some, but it's probably like, I don't know, $10 for a half a pound, something like that. It's ridiculous. The cost of chocolate and nuts, and then chocolate and nuts combined is even more ridiculous. So how did you guys unwind yesterday after the verdict? I mean, I was really wound up. By the time I I was working in my office and I kept getting texts. Oh, there's a verdict. There's a verdict. Okay, this was around 2:30ish my time, Central Standard Time. So and the text, when I looked at the network that I used to cover trials with, they had said the verdict would be announced between 3:30 and 4. So I thought, well, let me go live about 3:15 so everybody can sit and chit chat. And so I did. Which was interesting because my computer wasn't in here. I had my computer in another room because for some reason I edited my show in another room yesterday. I don't know why. I just felt like it. So I had to get the computer back in here, set up the room. And then I think I was maybe a couple minutes late to the live. I had to let the dogs out and, that kind of thing. So I did go live a little bit after 3. I think I may have changed it from 3:15 to 3. And I loved chatting with you all. I really did. And we waited for the verdict. And, I shared my screen and we listened to the verdict. And around about that time, and retrospectively, I thought, well, should I stay on and allow you guys to talk a little bit more? Because everybody was wound up. But Jake was so hungry. Like, he starts this thing at 4 o'clock, and he starts like a very low whine. It's not a growl, it's not a bark, it's just like this whine. And you could, like, it's at a decibel where you could barely hear it, but then it gets louder. So yesterday at 4, he kind of started that. Some of you who are very familiar with Jake recognized it, and you're there. You guys are like, you better go feed that dog because you guys know what that is. I just thought that was very funny. Yeah, and it did escalate. So, the verdict was read about 6 minutes after 4, and Jake started in about 7 minutes after 4. He's like, I don't care what the verdict is. I'm hungry. I'm hangry. By 4:15, he was hangry. Um, and he's so cute because once you feed him, he's fine. He'll just go off to his little corner. He'll do his business on his little. He's house trained. He has a little pad that he goes on. He'll do his business and he'll go off into his corner for the rest of the day, and you don't hear a peep out of him. So let's talk judge, jury, and journey. Like officially, judge, jury, and journey. New trial. Okay, let me get my trial book out here. All right. This is a trial of State of Florida versus Ashley McArthur. Now, this trial started on August 16th of 2019. So, not quite 2 years ago. Now, the actual events, I think, occurred in 2017. And this is an area of Florida that I'm not that familiar with. It's very rural. It's Pensacola area. That's the county, Pensacola. But there's lots of cities and stuff in that little area of Pensacola that are very rural. The judge in this case, I really liked her. I really, really like her. She tells the jury, okay, y'all are my people now. You're my people now. She goes, I'm going to take care of you. She says, we got snacks for you. There will, although this is on social media and is being covered live on the internet, the cameras will never be on you. I am the only one that has to worry about my lipstick and my makeup. You do not have to worry. I just thought she was. And then there was one time where there was a sidebar, and the lawyers all went back to their tables, and there was like, they were all grumbling around there. I don't know what they were doing, but so the judge says, I think this would be a good time for my possum story. And she had this story on her dog chasing a possum that morning, and I'm like, what? Very different than the Minnesota trial judge. So I thought that was just very, very funny. Now, we had to hear the possum story from this female judge. So, Ashley McArthur, very nice looking woman. She is married. There was quite a few people in the courtroom. You know, I think as it goes on, I may figure out who her family is or isn't. She is accused of the murder of Taylor Wright. So, you know, once the judge, she did a lot of housekeeping to start. So, what I gathered from watching the first day was on the first day, they picked a jury and they went with 15 jurors. Now, in Florida, you only need 12, but they picked 3 alternates because I guess you just don't ever know what's going to happen during a trial. And then the judge was very adamant about saying she expected this trial would be done by Friday. So in 1 week, we're going to have a trial in 1 week. So they picked the jury that day. They had opening statements that day, and they brought on one out-of-town witness that, you know, they wanted to get this person on the stand and then back to where he lived in another state. So, and that's what I'm going to talk about today, is what occurred on this first day in the trial. So the opening statements were, there was a female prosecutor, and she said, I'm just going to give you like an outline of what you're going to hear during this trial. Ashley McArthur is on trial for first-degree murder of Taylor Wright. Now, they were very good friends. Taylor, from what I gathered, you know, from when I picked this trial, Ashley McArthur, the defendant, used to be a crime scene investigator, and I guess we're going to learn more about that. But Taylor Wright, the victim of this murder, was a former Jacksonville police officer and was working as a private detective at the time of her murder. But she was also going through a very, very bitter divorce with a guy named Jeff Wright, who worked for the Department of Defense. Now, he was the first witness. This was the guy that they needed to, he lives in North Carolina. So he came here for the trial, and they needed to get him on the stand and get him back to North Carolina. I expect because, you know, he's an important person. They didn't say what he did for the Department of Defense, but so this was Taylor's ex-husband. They were already divorced, but they had a 9-year-old son, and they weren't fighting over custody of the son. They had joint custody, but they were fighting over money and other things, among other things, according to this Jeff Wright. So what this prosecutor says is that at some point, Taylor, the victim, withdraws $100,000 from a bank account. And her good friend, Ashley McArthur, has several bank accounts. And so she put Taylor Wright's name onto one of those accounts. She said, Taylor, I'm going to put your name on this account so you can keep your money in this account. So it's presumed that Taylor took this $100,000 and put it into this account. So, but this withdrawal of $100,000 was being litigated by her and her ex-husband because apparently she was not authorized to make this withdrawal, and there was a huge fight over, you know, her husband wanted this money back. So, because her husband wanted this money back and she was never supposed to withdraw that money, she kept asking Ashley McArthur for the money back. I need to go to the bank. I need to get this money back. I need to, you know, I'm in trouble with the court. I need to get this money back. So that's what we're going to hear. There's a lot about this money, and I was confused about, is it 100,000? Is it 30,000? What is it? I don't know. We're going to hear a bunch of. There's going to be a lot of cell phone text message records, cell phone records. Yeah, a lot of video camera stuff, and this is going to be an interesting trial. So on the last day that she was ever seen, this Taylor Wright, Ashley had agreed to come pick up Taylor, and they were going to go to the bank. And Taylor at this point was living with a woman named Cass. And I believe it was suspected that she was having an affair with this lady, Cass. So Ashley goes over to Cass's house to pick up Taylor to go to the bank. And this is around 10 o'clock in the morning. She's never seen again. And I did not catch the date of this, but I'm sure that we will during the trial. Then there's this whole series of interviews with Ashley. She goes missing. No one ever sees her. Ashley keeps going back and forth to the police. That's one of the things we're going to see is the interviews, the police interviews with Ashley McArthur, among other people. Like, where is this woman? And Ashley keep putting forth these theories of what she thinks has happened to her friend. And ultimately, Taylor Wright's body is found along a fence line on the family property of Ashley McArthur. Something that Ashley had failed to mention in all of her interviews was that she and Taylor had gone out to this property. She's like, "Oh yeah, Ashley, Taylor told me not to tell you guys." What? Anyway, that's where they find her body, and her body is buried in like cement and potting soil. And then, coincidentally, there'll be a video of this Ashley McArthur going into some kind of store and purchasing cement and potting soil. Now, that would be, for me, a very unusual purchase. Like, why would I be buying cement and potting soil? What possible explanation could you have for those purchases? But I don't live in rural Pensacola, so I'm sure that's one thing that we're going to hear. Now, the defense gets up for their opening argument, and neither of them were, I'm used to these lengthy things now from the Derek Chauvin case. Everything was so magnified and so lengthy. But, this was a quick opening statements, very quick. So the defense said, he got up there and he said that Taylor Wright was consumed with this divorce to her ex-husband. That she was in a relationship with this Cass woman and really didn't have a whole lot to say beyond that. So then they put on their first witness, which is this Jeff Wright, Taylor Wright's husband, who explains that they had been married for 10 years. They have a 9-year-old son who has his own cell phone. So his cell phone records are going to come into play. Was there communication between Taylor and the son, the 9-year-old son, after she disappears? That's going to be interesting. Now, this guy, Jeff, he did not look happy to be there. He looked like, hey, you guys gave me a subpoena, I'm here. Very, he had like, a Department of Defense. He looked like that's where he worked. He had the suit and tie and very stern looking. He explained that they were legally divorced in 2017. They were still litigating. Um, Financial issues. Can't read my own writing. Financial issues, among other things. And I never found out. Nobody asked him, like, what other things? There were so many questions they did not ask this guy. I thought through this witness we would get to know who this Taylor woman was. And all we got to know from her ex-husband was that she was a former Jacksonville police officer. We don't know why she was a former police officer, but we did find out that she withdrew $100,000 on July 12th of 2017 without permission, and this was being litigated. On August 13th of 2017 was the last time he saw her, because she had come to North Carolina to exchange their child. And that's the last time he saw her. I don't know if she dropped off the child, picked up the child. I'm assuming she dropped off the child. That's the last time he saw her. And then in September, there were 2 court dates regarding this money. On the first court date, Ashley doesn't show up, but somehow in her absence, maybe, I guess she had a lawyer. The lawyer said her lawyer asked for a continuance to this next court date, which she doesn't show up for either. So 2 dates in September, she doesn't show up. He testified that on September 8th, the son, who's named Drake, I love that name, Drake, called his mother and there was no answer, but he immediately gets a text message saying, call me back. So he calls her back. Still no answer. So Mr. Wright thought that was a very unusual transaction there. On October 16th, because he still hasn't heard anything from his wife. Now it's been October, November, no, wait a minute, August, September, 2 months. He reaches out. He goes on her Facebook account to find friends of hers to figure out where is she. So on her Facebook account, he finds this Ashley McArthur. So lesson here is be careful who you're friends with on Facebook, okay? So he finds this Ashley McArthur and he contacts her and he's like, hey, have you seen Taylor? And Ashley tells him the last time she saw Taylor had 2 backpacks and a significant amount of money, and that's the last time he saw her. That was this guy's testimony, the entire testimony. I was like, that's it? What? Like, all of a sudden, he's being dismissed and told he can go back to North Carolina, and we don't get to hear from him again. So, and then the day was over. The judge is like, okay, we thought this was going to last longer. I think even the judge was a little surprised that they didn't answer. They didn't really ask this guy much questions. Because to me, it seems like he would have had a wealth of information. But I guess we're going to get this wealth of information about this case through other people. Okay. So I'm going to put my little thing here because I'm going to listen to day 2 today and take notes for you guys. And we'll learn more about Ashley and Taylor tomorrow. Now, Ashley, the defendant, not a bad-looking woman. It looks like her grays are coming in. She hasn't been allowed to have any hair dye in prison. Gosh darn it. You know, we women need art to cover up our grays. But she's a very pretty woman. She looks to be maybe in her 40s, I guess, early 50s. Not a bad-looking woman. I didn't get the impression that she had children. They barely talked about her being married. So I just didn't learn much about either person through these opening statements or this witness. So more to come on that. I hope this is a trial that we're all going to enjoy a little less. And I'm very curious if and I'm going to have to reach out to her. If Mystery of Diamonds, I think, I could be wrong, I think she lives in that area. I'm going to ask her if she remembers this trial. So that is Judge, Jury, and Journey today. Now, I did say earlier, I had researched this day in history. So what did I ultimately pick? Well, I, I picked this one that I thought was super interesting. This lady, this day in history, this lady, Rosie Ruiz, in 1980, wins the Boston Marathon. Um, but she didn't run the Boston Marathon. She had qualified for the Boston Marathon by running in the New York Marathon. And when you do that, you have a time, and your time, I guess, is what qualifies you. So she's this Cuban-born woman. She's an administrative assistant from New York City. This was the 84th Boston Marathon. So it's believed that what she actually did was she jumped on the subway, and that at the point where she jumps into the race, she thinks she's jumping in at a point where she's just going to get into the middle of the pack and have an okay time. Well, she miscalculates where she's jumping into the race, and she actually jumps in ahead of 400 plus women into the lead of this race. She was like 30 minutes from the finish line, or was it 30 minutes? So she had miscalculated. She was only a mile from the finish line, not 30 minutes. So she was 1 mile from the finish line where she actually jumps in. Huge mistake on her part. So she runs, and she's, oh, I win. She breaks the tape and she wins, and she's interviewing. And it's not till a few days later that people start questioning this. They're like, first of all, they looked at her New York Marathon time, and she had a 25-minute improvement from her New York Marathon time, and which is quite incredible. We're talking about a sport where you improve in seconds, not 25 minutes. So that immediately was a huge red flag. Then they started going back over photographs of different parts of the race, and no one finds this woman in any of the photographs. So I don't know if she ever publicly admitted to cheating, but she was stripped of her title. It was given to someone else. The person that actually ended up winning, they brought her back the next year and allowed her to not posthumously, but they allowed her to retroactively, run through the tape. So she would have that moment that was stolen from her by this Ruiz lady. But, just how unusual. The actual winner was a woman named Jacqueline Garreau from Canada, with a time of 2 hours, 34 minutes, and 28 seconds. Ruiz's time, New York time, was also invalidated when it was discovered that she had taken the subway during the New York race. So she had not run either race. So interesting. So what happens to this woman? For the rest of her life, she maintained, and she doesn't have a long life, let me tell you that. She maintained that she won it fair and square. I won that race. She lost her job in New York. In 82, she was accused of stealing money from her employer. The following year, she was caught selling drugs to an undercover officer in Florida. She because of both of these things, she spent time in jail, and she died in 2019 in Florida. So, interesting day in history, right? Now, interesting that it's just strange that they caught on. But it wasn't until maybe a week or so later that they're like, oh, wait a minute, this lady didn't really win this thing. So interesting. So tonight, as I said before, is Craft With Me Wednesday, where I will again have out my collage quilting. The part that I have to work on, I've got the heel done. I've got to work on the actual, I've got the shoe part done. I have to work on the heel part. And then I'm going to start the background of the heel. So I've got to make sure I've got all my fabric lined up. I've got the iron hot in case something has come undone there. So we'll work on that tonight, 6 p.m. Central. I hope you join me. If not, I will see you tomorrow in the morning show. And remember, I love you all. Thank you for your support, your buy me a coffee, your super chats. Thank you guys, your memberships, all going to support the channel. Your one-time donations to my PayPal account. Thank you from the Netherlands. Oh my gosh, I've got supporters all over the world. I was blown away when I saw that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.